Hi, Reggie here speaking about healing America's narratives, the feminine, the masculine, and our collective national shadow becoming more fully human. Today, we're speaking about the seventh of the nine traits of America's collective shadow. Those nine traits are ignorance, arrogance, greed, bigotry, fear, violence, excess, bullying, and untrustworthiness. And today we're speaking about excess, related to greed, which was in the previous episode, where greed is a desire, a tendency to want more and more and more and more. Excess refers to a behavior or a quantity of something that's beyond what's useful or necessary. Um, so it is possible to have excess money. I haven't had that experience personally in my life, but I think people who are sitting on investments and assets worth hundreds of millions and even tens or hundreds of billions of dollars individually, that feels excessive to me. As I mentioned with the conversation on greed, I'm not saying there's a point at which people should stop keeping their assets or stop making money. I'm not suggesting that. But I am suggesting, because we live on a planet with limited resources, really limited livable space, with some issues with climate, heat, rising sea levels, that beyond a certain point, excessive behaviors, excessive wealth really does harm the planet and harms other people. So in the United States history, there are examples of excessive violence. Remember the slogans going into one of the Gulf Wars, shock and awe. We remain the only country to slaughter civilians, with atomic weapons in Nagasaki and Hiroshima in Japan. And yes, Japan started the war, but one nation on this planet has used nuclear weapons against other people, and that's the United States. That is excessive. We had already firebombed Tokyo and leveled that city with fire. So that's an example of excess. What does one do if one is extremely successful in the material world and does, in fact, have a lot of financial resources coming his or her or their way, and has the capacity to own 5, 10, or 15 houses, 80 or 90 or 200 vehicles, when there's not enough money in public education, in the poorer school districts in the United States, when there are people starving in this country, when some people, still about 20 million people, despite the efforts of the Affordable Care Act in 2010, there are still people who don't have access to affordable healthcare in this country. So in one regard, this idea of the land of the free and capitalism and be all you can be, if somebody has the ability to make millions or billions of dollars, he or she can be as excessive as he or she wants to be. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is if I happen to be successful in that way, or I have material assets in the form of money or other things, once I have enough and then some for me and my family, I have the option of sharing that wealth with those who are more needy, less fortunate. Now, there's the argument, yeah, but if you give stuff to people, then they won't work for themselves. Research disproves that the vast majority of people who fall on hard times, who in fact are the beneficiary of somebody else's generosity and or hospitality, usually pay that back by getting on their feet, being responsible, and going out and taking care of themselves as best they can. Then they don't sit back and expect more and more good things to come to them through other people's generosity. So that argument doesn't really hold up. So excess shows up in many ways. Do you need a toilet made out of gold? Do you need to put your name on everything that you happen to build? All right. Do you need that many motor vehicles? All right. Yeah, they're investments. They're investments meaning what? So hopefully they'll appreciate, so you'll have more money. So again, this is a delicate topic to speak about. but it's an important topic to speak about, because in a country where there are people starving, where there are people who don't have a fair start and a good education, and yet we then have folks who have hundreds of millions, tens of billions of dollars, who keep it to themselves, and many of them do. I'm sure they donate to selective charities, but not that much. Okay, so excess is behavior or a quantity of anything that's beyond what's really necessary or useful. And that's one of the 9 traits of America's collective shadow. So thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you the next time.